Alright, I'm back with another Destiny 2 video. As my PS5 copies the update behind me. I have already played it on PC, which is the first thing I downloaded, so I've gone through at least the new kind of story stuff they introduced and the new mission types they introduced this week. That would be the final override mission on the Tangled Shore, which is like all the other ones, except now there's Scorn, and there's a final boss that is even easier than the other two final bosses, so enjoy. Besides that, the big new addition to the game this week is Expunge, which Bungie described as a weekly pinnacle mission, which no one really knew what to make of. The past 2 seasons or so, the kind of weekly pinnacle mission has been either Harbinger, which you run it once a week for a pinnacle, which was obviously tied to the Hawkmoon quest, and Presage, Presage, which you also ran for Pinnacle when it was working, and I think they just patched that. And that was also based on an exotic Dead Man's Tale. So I think some people may have been assuming that this is like another thing like those and is tied to some sort of exotic. I'm not going to go into all the future stuff because like maybe there will be an exotic tied to this at some point, but there was not one available today from what I'm seeing at all. And this is not really like those missions. It's not... It's not that level of detail where it has all these like story components and things. Like there is some voice work, but it's not quite on the level of those. The best way I can describe this, I'll have some footage going at some point here, is that it's kind of a combination between the EXO challenges from Beyond Light, the ones that you do where you're just kind of like jumping around and fighting a boss and stuff as Clovis Bray makes fun of you, and then the weekly interference mission that you used to run for Eris. Which is a mission that changed, some degree week to week, but you could solo it. It wasn't like a very combat intensive mission. Like it was pretty easy to solo. Expunge is easy to solo. I know they've shown a lot of people rolling in there with a fire team, but at least for this version, for this mission, you do not need that. It is very easy to solo this first week, which is called the Labyrinth. That is because it is a kind of vertical, twisty-turny maze type of thing in the Vex data realm. I don't know if they'll all be like this. There might be ones that are more combat-focused, but there is barely any combat in this one. You will just occasionally run into some exploding Vex, and I think there's 1 or 2 barrier hobgoblins you'll have to get through, and then there is a final boss, but he does not have a ton of health, and you can burn through him in pretty much 2 phases. You spend most of your time jumping around. There are 2 new upgrades for the Splicer Gauntlet this week that help out. The first one for 300 data gives you more gravity cannons. Yeah, that's what they are. Something weird is going on with the gravity cannons in this, where they will insta-kill you if you kind of approach them from the wrong direction, which I learned the hard way in some of my runs here. And I think you have to like kind of jump down on top of them. I've never really seen gravity cannons do this before, but that's a little irritating. And then there is a final upgrade for 500 data that it's one of those little boxes you interact with, and then it will spawn additional kind of green platforms for you to jump on, which makes some of the jumping segments easier. If you're someone who's not big into jumping puzzles, that might be something you want to invest in. I don't know if it was like game-changing per se, and there were still plenty of hard jumps that you kind of had to finagle, especially when you're carrying the data spike in third person, but what else are you going to spend data on? You might as well do the upgrade. And you got to upgrade the whole gauntlet anyway for the season pass. The final row of upgrades on the Splicer Gauntlet still is not unlocked even after you beat it. So I am not quite sure what those are going to be for or when those will unlock, but I assume maybe in a few more Expunge missions to come, and that might give us some new bonus for some different type of Expunge. Expunge is listed on the roadmap for 6 weeks. I do not know if they're going to be like 6 different weeks of this, or if how many variants of this there are. This being override : Labyrinth, makes me assume that there's override : whatever, probably at least 2 or 3 more of those. So that would be my guess. It is a pretty big arena. Like this is definitely more substantive than the EXO challenge. It just kind of reminds me of like the style of that, where only one of those was very heavily combat focused, and the rest were kind of a lot of jumping around and more mechanics based. And then this one is in some instances kind of like a literal maze. So like it was fun, I guess. It was just a little odd, and it's not quite what I was expecting. I was expecting that this was going to be something that you had to run as a fire team, like it would at least be that level of challenging, but unless there's like a heroic version of this or something, that does not seem to be the case. And if you were going for time, you probably just want to go by yourself. I guess other people could help you burn the boss a little bit, but the boss is so weak anyway, I don't know how valuable that would be. I think kind of just once you learn your way, you should be able to hit the time trial achievement. And that's not even necessary to beat it, it's just an achievement, so it's not a huge deal. I'm curious to see what the future of these missions holds. There are implications that it could have some sort of very big story component. I'm not going to go into the things we think we know. We did see a flash. This is already in the game that we think we saw what looked like a taken Hydra, which should be Korea. I never pronounce it right. So maybe she, they, I'm not sure. It's a Vex supermind. Maybe lurking around in there somewhere and is behind all of this. And this is all an elaborate Savathun plot, as we suspect. The most interesting story stuff was not actually a part of Expunge this week, but it was the lore attached to, I think it's like Beneath the Endless Night, where it's like Lakshmi and Hideo like actively plotting a coup to overthrow Zavala and Ikora and like install someone like Saladin and Saints there instead, who is more prone to kill enemies rather than make alliances with them. And they're trying to bring Arak Jalal in on it, the Dead Orbit guy. So that is pretty interesting. Definitely read that lore. It's that's kind of where the real story is this week. And meanwhile, poor Mithrax is trying to form an alliance with Lakshmi and give her all the Vex data he collects, which, as we can probably tell, does not seem to be wise, even if he's trying to make friends here. Yep, so that's kind of what Expunge is. It is not very intensive. Like, I don't think this is going to be maybe as challenging or as in-depth as some people were imagining. If there were like 6 different versions of these, that would actually be kind of significant, and that would be a good amount of content to consume. Unless I'm mistaken, I did not get a pinnacle drop from this. I think that my drop is just at 1310. Unless I missed something or went to my postmaster or something, but I did not actually get a pinnacle drop from this pinnacle mission, so I'm not sure what that was about. Destiny has had a lot of problems actually giving out pinnacle drops for its pinnacle missions lately, and they just patched some of those, so maybe this is another one that's glitching out, or I just got unlucky. But yeah, for now, you don't really need to worry about assembling a fire team for this. If you don't like jumping, this may take some trial and error, but if I can do it on my Warlock, you guys can do it on your Hunters and Titans probably pretty easily, and I wouldn't worry about that too much. And I see my PlayStation version has updated, so I'm going to run that stuff on my Titan and Hunter, and then I might farm the Nightfall a bit to try and get the Sniper. And then I am going to try and find a Bolt of Glass team at some point. I'm running some of my buddies tomorrow, but man, I'm really itching to get back in there, so we'll see how long I can wait. But yeah, that's reset for now. Expunge is kind of weird, but it's okay, I guess. We'll see how it evolves, but thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Take care.